Welcome to the Prescott Lab podcast, not just theory, but practical science for real men. I'm Dr. Jonathan Prescott, speaking to you tonight with something that most men never say out loud, though nearly every man over 60 feels it. There is a silent weight pressing on millions of fathers, grandfathers, brothers, and husbands around the world. A burden that creeps in quietly, reshaping our nights, our confidence, and even the way we move through the day. I'm talking about the prostate, that small walnut-sized gland that almost no man thinks about until it begins to remind him that time is moving forward. But let me be clear, aging does not have to mean surrender. What I've learned over decades of listening to patients, researching, and walking alongside men like you is that small daily choices, humble, natural, ordinary choices, can change the story. They can protect your prostate, restore your energy, even return a sense of freedom you thought was gone. And tonight, I want to share 5 habits that are simple enough for any man, yet powerful enough to rewrite the way you experience your 60s, 70s, and beyond. One of them may even surprise you because it's not a pill, not a procedure, not a gimmick. It's something you can start the very next time you wake up. So stay with me, friend. If you've ever woken in the dark hours of the night, frustrated by yet another trip to the bathroom, or wondered quietly if your health is slipping away faster than your strength, this conversation is for you. Let's pause here and talk about this small, walnut-sized gland that quietly runs so much of a man's life. The prostate. Most men don't even think about it until something goes wrong. But here's the truth. This tiny organ is not just a passenger, it's an engine, a hidden one. And when it begins to sputter, the whole system feels it. The prostate sits just beneath your bladder, wrapped around the urethra like a ring around a pipe. Its job is humble yet vital, producing the fluid that carries and nourishes sperm. For most of your life, it's silent. You barely know it's there. Then something changes. Around your 50s and almost certainly by your 60s, this small gland starts to grow. Not in a dramatic, overnight way, but steadily, year by year. Medicine calls it benign prostatic hyperplasia, or BPH. The word benign makes it sound harmless. But any man who's been up 3, 4, 5 times a night to urinate knows there's nothing harmless about it. The stream slows, the urgency rises, the nagging sense that you never quite empty your bladder becomes part of the background of your days. And the cruelest part, most men assume this is just getting old. They accept it, they suffer in silence, but here's where I want to challenge that myth. Aging is inevitable, suffering is not. The National Institutes of Health reports that by age 70, more than 80% of men have some degree of prostate enlargement. But enlargement doesn't have to mean disability. New science shows us that the way we eat, drink, move, and rest can slow this growth, reduce inflammation, even restore function. Think of the prostate like the engine in a classic car. Left ignored, it clogs, overheats, and stalls. But give it the right fuel, the right rhythm of use, the right maintenance, and it hums along for decades. That's the message I want every man listening to take in. Your prostate is not a ticking time bomb. It's an engine waiting for you to care for it properly. And caring for it begins not with surgery, not with pills, but with the quiet habits you shape every single day. That's where we start. And the first habit may surprise you because it's hiding in plain sight: water. If there is one habit so ordinary that most men overlook it, it is this: water. The way you drink when you drink and how much you drink is more than a lifestyle choice, it is medicine. Here's what I mean. As we age, something subtle happens. Our sense of thirst dulls. A man in his 60s may go half a day before realizing he hasn't had a proper sip of water. By the time the thirst signal kicks in, dehydration has already begun. And what fills the bladder then? Not clean, gentle fluid, but concentrated acidic urine loaded with waste products. That irritates the bladder. It aggravates prostate tissue. And slowly, quietly, it makes the nights longer, the sleep shallower, the mornings more exhausting. I've seen men nod at me in my office when I say this. They say, doctor, I thought waking up 4 times at night was just aging. But then I show them the research. A study published in the Journal of Urology, tracking over 2,000 men above 60, found something remarkable. Those who hydrated consistently through the day but eased off in the evening saw a 41% reduction in nighttime urgency. That is not a pill, that is not a surgery, that is a glass of water taken at the right time. So here's my prescription, if you will. Drink like you're on schedule, not on impulse. Begin in the morning, sip through late morning into early afternoon. 6 to 8 cups, depending on your activity level and your kidneys. Let the water flow gradually, not in sudden gulps. And then here's the key: taper off in the evening. Give your bladder a chance to rest so that when you close your eyes, you can truly sleep. Think of it this way: water is not just quenching thirst. It is flushing toxins, cooling inflammation, easing the very tissues that keep your prostate functioning. It is the cheapest, safest, and most accessible medicine you will ever take. And once you begin to feel the difference, fewer night interruptions, a steadier stream, a calmer bladder, you realize something else. Your body has been waiting for you to pay attention all along. But hydration is just the beginning. There is another habit, equally humble, equally underestimated. You don't need a gym or machines or youth on your side. You just need your own 2 legs and 15 minutes after a meal. If hydration is the fuel, then movement is the ignition. And the kind of movement I'm talking about isn't a marathon, it isn't a treadmill, it isn't a gym membership you'll never use. It's something so simple, so ancient, and so accessible that most men dismiss it: walking. A light, steady 15-minute walk after meals, especially lunch and dinner, can do more for your prostate than you imagine. Not a power walk, not a sprint. Just moving gently with rhythm. Letting your blood circulate, letting your muscles breathe. Science confirms what common sense has whispered for centuries. Researchers at the University of Sao Paulo Medical School tracked older men who built this habit, and what they found was staggering. Those who walked after meals had up to a 35% lower risk of developing moderate to severe BPH symptoms compared to men who stayed in their chairs. 35% not from a pill but from steps. Why? Because walking after eating is like opening the windows in a stuffy room. It clears, it circulates, it refreshes. Blood flow increases in the pelvic region, oxygenation improves, nutrients are delivered more effectively to the tissues, including the prostate. Blood sugar stabilizes, which matters more than most realize, since insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes are tightly linked with prostate problems. And quietly, almost invisibly, walking reduces the inflammatory markers in your blood, things like C-reactive protein and interleukin-6, the very substances that fuel chronic prostate inflammation. So when I say walk after you eat, I don't mean it as a casual suggestion. I mean it as medicine. Medicine that doesn't come in a bottle, but in the movement of your own legs, in the air filling your lungs, in the quiet pace of your body digesting life itself. I've had patients tell me, doctor, I don't have the energy for exercise anymore. And I always respond the same way: that's why you need to walk. Because energy isn't something you wait to feel, it's something you generate, and nothing generates it more reliably than consistent movement. Picture it: you finish dinner, the day feels heavy, and instead of slumping into the armchair, you step outside. Maybe it's around the block. Maybe it's across your living room if the weather's bad. 15 minutes of circulation, that's all. Over weeks and months, this tiny choice changes the chemistry of your body. It lowers your risks, it soothes your prostate, it restores a little of the vitality you thought was lost. And once you've begun to feel this shift, you'll realize the medicine your body craves has been waiting under your feet all along. But there is another habit, one that is buried under years of stigma and silence. And yet, it may be the most natural cleansing cycle your prostate will ever know. Now let's step into a subject most men shy away from. The one whispered about, joked about, or ignored until it's too late. I'm talking about sexual release ejaculation. For too long, older men have been told this part of life is behind them, that intimacy fades, that desire withers, that the body no longer has use for it. But science paints a different picture, and your prostate, it remembers every release you give it. Here's what the research says. In 2016, Harvard scientists published a landmark study in European urology. They followed over 30,000 men for 18 years. What they found was astonishing. Men who ejaculated at least 21 times per month had a 33% lower risk of developing prostate cancer compared to those who ejaculated less. That's not folklore, that's hard data. Biologically, it makes sense. Ejaculation is the body's natural flush cycle. It clears the prostate of old cells, waste proteins, inflammatory debris, the kinds of things that, if left to stagnate, can create irritation, congestion, even long-term disease. Think of it like changing the oil in your car. Leave the oil unchanged and sludge builds up. Flush it regularly and the engine runs cleaner longer. But the benefits don't stop there. Regular sexual activity increases pelvic circulation, relaxes the surrounding muscles, lowers cortisol, balances hormones, and yes, it lifts mood. It reminds the body it is still alive, still capable, still connected. And yet, too many men in their 60s and 70s carry shame about this. They hesitate to bring it up even with their doctor. I tell my patients the same thing I'll tell you. There is no shame in wanting to feel whole. Sexual health is not a teenage luxury. It is a pillar of vitality. Maybe for you it's with a partner. Maybe it's alone. Either way, this is not about proving masculinity. It's about maintaining biology. You are never too old to keep this natural rhythm alive. I've seen men in their late 70s who, after rediscovering regular sexual release, reported fewer urinary symptoms, deeper sleep, and a renewed sense of confidence in their marriages. That is not coincidence. That is the body responding to a need it has always carried. So I'll say it plainly, don't starve your prostate of what keeps it healthy. Release is not indulgence. Release is maintenance. And if you can accept that, if you can let go of the guilt, then the next step becomes clear. Because what you put on your plate every day is just as powerful as what you release. If release is the flush, then food is the fuel. And not just any food, the right food. Every bite you take either calms inflammation or feeds it, either steadies your hormones or scrambles them, either protects your prostate or leaves it vulnerable. Let's begin with one of the most powerful compounds ever studied for prostate protection, lycopene. You'll find it in tomatoes, watermelon, guava, but here's the trick. When tomatoes are cooked, especially in olive oil, lycopene becomes far more available to your body. A meta-analysis in the International Journal of Cancer revealed that men who ate cooked tomatoes at least twice a week lowered their risk of prostate cancer by 28%. Imagine that something as simple as a bowl of tomato soup or a plate of marinara pasta acting like a shield for your gland. Next, consider zinc. This humble mineral is heavily concentrated in the prostate. Without it, testosterone wobbles, enzymes falter, and tissue repair slows. Foods rich in zinc, pumpkin seeds, oysters, cashews, are like tuning forks for your hormonal balance. They restore structure and stability, giving your prostate the materials it needs to stay resilient. And then there are the cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, kale, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. They contain sulforaphane, a compound that helps your body detoxify at the cellular level, protecting DNA from mutations that can lead to cancer. Think of them as the janitors of your system, sweeping out what doesn't belong. Put these pieces together and you see the pattern. Food is not neutral. Food is medicine. The plate you prepare each night is as decisive as any prescription bottle. When you build meals that are plant-dominant, rich in colors, anchored by lean proteins, seeds, and healthy fats, you're not just eating, you're constructing armor. I've watched men shift their diet and within weeks, their blood pressure eases, their sleep steadies, their prostate symptoms soften. Not because they discovered a miracle cure, but because they finally stopped feeding the fire and started feeding the healing. So ask yourself, what story are you telling your body with each meal? Is it the story of decline or the story of repair? And that brings us to the final and perhaps most underestimated medicine of all, one you can't swallow. Chew or sip, you can only surrender to it. We've talked about water, movement, release, and food. But there is one final habit, one so ordinary that men dismiss it, and yet so powerful that without it, everything else begins to unravel. That habit is sleep. Most men treat sleep as optional, a soft luxury. Something you can shave down to make more room for the day, but sleep is not a luxury. It is regenerative medicine. It is the quiet repair shop that your body enters every night. When you close your eyes and drift into deep, restorative sleep, two powerful hormones rise to work: melatonin and growth hormone. Melatonin doesn't just help you fall asleep, it is a natural anti-inflammatory agent. Growth hormone, released in pulses during deep sleep, is your body's construction crew, rebuilding tissues, restoring muscles, balancing metabolism. And yes, both are critical for keeping your prostate healthy. Ignore sleep, and you don't just feel tired. You disrupt testosterone production, you raise cortisol, you inflame the very tissues you're trying to protect. One study published in Cancer Epidemiology, Biomarkers and Prevention showed that men who suffered frequent sleep disturbances had twice the risk of developing advanced prostate cancer compared to those who slept through the night. Twice. Let that sink in. And yet, most men laugh it off. I'll catch up on sleep later. But there is no later. Every night you cut short, every hour you steal from rest, you're borrowing against your future. So what can you do? Create a sanctuary for sleep. Keep your room cool, dark, and quiet. Set a bedtime and honor it even on weekends. Put the phone down an hour before bed. Let your nervous system cool. Avoid caffeine in the late afternoon. Treat the hours of sleep as sacred because they are. I often tell my patients, think of sleep as the meeting where your body decides your future. Skip the meeting and the decisions get made without you. Show up and you have a say in how your body heals, repairs, and endures. Hydration, walking, release, food, and sleep. 5 habits. Each small, each ordinary, each available to every man listening right now. Alone they matter, together they transform. And that brings us to the close of this conversation, not with fear, but with hope. Because what you choose today can shape not just your prostate, but your freedom, your confidence, and the way you age tomorrow. So here we are, 5 simple habits. 5 choices any man can make starting today. Hydrate with intention, walk after meals, release without shame, eat like your food is medicine, and sleep as if your life depends on it because it does. These are not tricks, they are not gimmicks. They are the foundations of strength that most men overlook until it's too late, but you don't have to wait for a crisis. You can claim them now. I've seen men in their 60s, 70s, even 80s turn the corner by practicing these daily rhythms. Their nights grew quieter, their mornings lighter, their confidence stronger. They didn't just protect their prostates, they reclaimed a sense of freedom that aging had tried to take away. And you can too. Gentlemen, hear me clearly, your best years are not behind you. They are still ahead if you choose to protect them. What you ignore today, you may regret tomorrow. But what you embrace today can add years of vitality, intimacy, and independence to your life. So here's my invitation. Don't keep this to yourself. Share this message with your father, your brother, your friend. Let the men you love know that aging gracefully is possible, that their health is not a lost cause. And if this conversation spoke to you, let me know. Leave a comment, add your voice, because the silence around men's health ends when we choose to break it together. If you found value here, tap the like button, subscribe, and share this podcast forward, not as a favor to me, but as a declaration for yourself. A promise that you will not surrender to decline, that you will keep showing up for your body, for your relationships, for your life. Thank you for giving me this time, for listening with an open heart. Remember, prostate health isn't just about living longer, it's about living well. Until next time, I'm Dr. Jonathan Prescott reminding you, take the small steps, keep the faith, and never forget your best years are still waiting for you.